Hello and welcome to the Gooner Tool, back again with you guys for another episode of our Let's Talk Arsenal series. Specifically though, this is our Agree to Disagree show where we'll be having a chat about a topic which has formed a bit of division amongst the Arsenal fan base, and possibly with my guests who may think differently to me on this topic, and you in the chat box and the comment section may as well. It creates debate and discussion, which is what we as Arsenal fans absolutely adore. I say I'm joined by a guest. I wanted Lev, but I got Shaheen. How are you doing, Shaheen?
I'm just going to leave now, man. You know, this is not... But I'm going to be off. No, I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
No, my pleasure.
It's always a pleasure to come over to yours. But yeah, I'm looking forward to doing this show.
Good stuff. Shaheen obviously joining us from the Arsenal Lounge, which for those of you who somehow are not aware of, is a show that we do on Monday nights over on Shaheen and Lev's channel with the help of Mo, who a lot of you are familiar with. 8 o'clock, usually Monday nights, depending on when fixtures are. If it's a Monday game, usually we do it Tuesday. But make sure you're tuning in. The link to the channel is in the description, so if you're not already subscribed, make sure you go over and subscribe to the Arsenal Lounge. But we are here, Shaheen, to discuss Thierry Omri and his comments surrounding William Saliba. Now, to give the listeners some context as to what we're talking about, I'll read you his quotes last night. He was speaking to Amazon Prime about Saliba after they were battered by Lyon, and he was talking about him saying, "I think it's a real shame. They didn't even let him make a mistake. He was sent away without even being able to make a mistake. He didn't have the chance to prove himself. What he is doing here is extraordinary. He was rewarded with a selection for the France team. Now he belongs to Arsenal. I don't know where he will end up. We have seen that it was a little difficult for him to express himself on the subject. What I know is that he could have been in the Arsenal squad. I'm not Mikel Arteta, but I found it difficult for him. Anyway, he responded well, and that's the most important thing." Now, what was your initial reaction, not to the reaction of seeing the quotes, but the reaction of yours personally to what he said?
Nothing negative, you know, because if we go back to last season, or I would say maybe even the season before that, you know, everybody had this question that why is Saliba not getting a game? You know, why are we sending this guy? You know, we spent £30 million on this guy. You know, why can't he get a game? I remember this was a real, you know, discussion topic when we didn't register him for the Europa League. We didn't Europa League squad. We didn't register him for the Premier League squad. He didn't get a game in. I think he got one game in Carling Cup, if I'm not mistaken.
He got. It wasn't even that. He was on the bench for the Community Shield. And he played against MK Dons in a pre-season friendly. That's it. That's all he's done.
So what Thierry Henry is saying is what a lot of people were saying a few seasons before. Now, since then, Saliba has gone on loan to Marseille. He's done well. But the point is still, I think what he's talking about back then, which he's saying exactly what a lot of Arsenal fans were saying, is that how come this guy has not been given a chance? I remember people going as far as saying he's better than Rob Holding. You know, he should be there. You know, he should be partnering Ben White.
Do you think
he should be partnering...
When he came in after that season at Saint-Etienne, do you think he should have been ahead of Rob Holding?
Not necessarily, but maybe... Listen, hindsight is a really, you know, it's a wonderful thing. Looking back on it now, we can say, yeah, all right, he went to Marseille, he did really well. But before he went to Marseille, right? Everybody will say we should keep this guy, we should give him a chance. Saliba deserves a chance. Quite a lot of people that I know were saying this, you know. And then now you've got Thierry Henry saying exactly what was said back then, and somehow there are, you know, comments. I'm sure you're going to go into that has been said. But my reaction to it wasn't one that, oh, I'm shocked about what he's saying. This is outrageous. No, he's saying what everybody was saying at the time. I think we should have been given a chance at Arsenal.
So my thoughts around kind of Saliba's situation, to give context, is, you know, when he came back from Saint-Etienne, this was someone that had really not played much for, you know, 18 months or so. his return loan was affected by injury, and then obviously the pandemic hit, in which Liga finished early, so he didn't really play a full season at all. The season before that, when he was kind of breaking out into the Saint Etienne team again, wasn't involved in terms of a full season. So he had hardly played senior football for quite some time. So when he came back, there was also this situation with the French Cup final that he wanted to play the French Cup final for Saint Etienne, and then Arsenal weren't willing to agree to Saint Etienne's terms to basically pay them for him to play the final. And there was issues around kind of his fitness regime that they wanted him to be put on that, wasn't amicable, basically. And he was annoyed about that, and I don't think the club took too kindly to the way in which he reacted to, not being able to play in the final. The issue for me with Arsenal is what they did at the end of the summer 2020 window, which was that, one, they didn't register him for the Europa League or the Premier League in the sense that he could be selected for the team. And two, they didn't sort out a loan in the period of time where the championship window was still open. Because if you remember the window European-wise was closed.
Yeah.
And I don't have too much of an issue with that, because Rennes came in the last week of the window and was offering him a loan, but then they went for Daniele Rugani from Juventus instead at the last minute, which meant that Arsenal couldn't end up sorting out a loan for Saliba. But I still feel like they could have maybe done something regarding a championship loan so he was actually playing senior football. But at a minimum, they should have registered him. But they should have registered him in the Europa League team, and they didn't do that.
And Tom, if I'm not mistaken, there was a situation where we were short at the back in Europa League, and everybody was like, "Oh, well, why wasn't he registered? He could have come in now." If I can't remember which game it was or what date he was, but I do remember an instance where there was real talk. Look, why haven't we registered? He could have played now, and he couldn't even get a game in Carabao Cup, which was surprising.
Fast forward to 2021, he went on loan to Nice, which I think was a really good loan move. Nice were doing some good things at the time, and he formed a good partnership with Jean-Claire Debo, who joined on loan as well from Barcelona, and he played on the left-hand side, which is interesting because he's not really played on that side for Marseille this season, did really well. Returned, and then in the summer of 2021 was effectively told, look, we want to sign a centre-back this summer. Ben White's going to come in for 50 million quid. We don't think Arteta didn't think he was ready still at that point, which again is fair enough. He just played 6 months and that's it of senior football. That was 6 months more than he'd played in like the last 18. So I kind of get where Arteta's coming from. And he'd rather be playing. I think the club would rather see him playing. So they got him a loan to Marseille. And I don't think that this has been a bad loan for him at all. In fact, I think it's probably been the best decision possible for him to go on loan. So this is where I diverge from Thierry's comments. This is where I think that he is slightly wide of the mark to talk about him in this sense at Marseille. Because yes, he's right in saying that he wasn't given the opportunity when there was one where he could have been registered. But the thing is I don't think he's right to point to this Marseille loan as any kind of error on the club's part. What do you think about that?
No, I agree there. I don't think he was, though. I think he was talking about prior to this where maybe he should have been given an opportunity to make mistakes here at Arsenal rather than being sent out on loan. Maybe there are things behind the scene about his relationship with Arteta or with club that we don't know, and Thierry does know. Obviously, him being French, and maybe he's aware of that. I don't know. I don't want to, talk about something that I don't know. But I think from what I gathered, of the discussion was that he was referring to previously where he should have been given a chance to make mistakes at Arsenal rather than being sent out on loan. As I said, looking back on it now, it's as you said, it seems as it was a really good decision and he's done really well at Marseille. And, Arsenal have got a big decision to make with this guy come summer because he's got about a year and a half left on his contract. So you either need to sell him or you need to offer him a new contract because you don't want to have another scenario where you write off another £30 million and another player walks away for free. And what they want to do with him, as I said, I don't know the talks behind the scenes, what the plans are for him. I'm hoping that they will keep him and he'll sign a new contract.
let's jump into the chat box as well and get some of the reaction from you guys. Wes, thank you so much for becoming a member and supporting the channel. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, he came from Arsenal Lounge. We told him to come over.
Did he? Is that what happened? Wes, you've got to corroborate this story now. Lynn says Henri should not be getting involved, and surely Mikel knows more about Saliba and us fans and Henri. It's something that I want to come on to in a second. Is talking about the Henri speaking on certain topics and the reaction of the fan base to Henri as well. Yo says Nuno was deemed ready enough despite playing so little senior football before joining the club. Again, I think he came in obviously as a backup in a position with just Kieran Tierney. So it's a bit different than having Gabriel, Rob Holding, Pablo Mari and Ben White all ahead of you. When it's just Kieran Tierney, you can kind of see why Nuno Tavares was given the opportunities, whereas Saliba hasn't.
Another thing, Tom, can I just say add something as well? I think one issue with William Saliba is his price tag. If Nuno Tavares was, I think, £7 million. In a grand scheme of things in footballing terms, £7 million is not a lot of money. Whereas, the outlay of £30 million and the player has not kicked the ball for the club, it raises a lot of questions.
I'll put a little poll in the chat box as well, saying is Thierry Henry right in his comments regarding Saliba at the moment. 64 of you have voted so far. Make sure if you're joining us to drop a vote and drop a like on the video as well. 42% saying yes, 58% saying no. He's not currently right on this. Now, the side bit to this, Shaheen, is something that you obviously tagged me in a tweet about earlier, is the criticism that Thierry Henry is getting. And to the point where that criticism is crossing over into what I think is greater and worse than criticism, bordering on abuse and definitely abuse in some cases towards Thierry Henry. Now, I, in this morning's show, said that I think that when you look across some of Thierry Henry's comments in the last year plus 2 years, I get a feeling of envy from him. It's my personal opinion. I get a sense that there is some envious tendencies because we know how much he wants the Arsenal manager's job. I think he has made no bones about that being a secret. And his managerial record has not been that great. And when you see a manager like Mikel Arteta, who had no previous managerial first team experience, come in, I think naturally there's going to be some envy. And I don't think it's critical to say that there's some envy. I think it's pretty fair to say that there would be envy. I think if I was Henri, I'd be pretty envious. But my issue is I think that across his comments in the last year and a bit, that has started to maybe affect the way in which he's speaking about Arsenal. And I have been very critical consistently about a lot of comments that he's made in that year and a bit. What do you make of both that, my opinion, and some of the lines that have been crossed online today as well?
Tom, didn't he do an interview and he said he actually doesn't want to manage Arsenal? I don't know. Look into that.
I'm looking at where you're going.
Listen, the most important thing in this equation, if you like, is we all need to understand and respect that we may have a different view about a topic, and that is okay. It doesn't mean because I'm saying one thing and you're saying something opposite, you don't know nothing about football, or I can abuse you, or I can be aggressive towards you. No, Thierry Henry has got an opinion about this Saliba situation, about Arteta, or about him as a manager, and is entitled to his opinion. You can disagree, as you just said. You just disagreed with some things that Thierry Henry has said about Mikel Arteta, but you're respectful about it.
Yeah.
This is an Arsenal legend. This is a guy who's got a statue outside the club. This is the guy, I think he was the first or the second that was introduced in Premier League Hall of Fame. Jamie Carragher, John Terry, these guys coming out saying he was the toughest opponent they played. People seem to forget what he's done for the club. And if he's got an opinion, whether it's positive or negative about the club, he's entitled to it. You can disagree with what he's saying, but don't come out with rubbish comments. Don't be abusive towards the guy. Don't forget, this is one of the reasons that he left social media a few years ago, because of the abuse. Not necessarily from the Arsenal fans, but generally. I mean, I've done a tweet that I tagged you on it. There was a guy that he came out and he said, Thierry Henry is not fit enough to tie Mikel Arteta's laces.
Yeah, I saw that comment. Managerial laces, I think he said.
Yeah, no, either. Listen, Thierry Henry has gone there. He's tried. Being a football manager is not for everybody. Maybe he goes to another place and it works out well for him. And I think every Arsenal fan would love to see him do well. Okay, just like how it is with Patrick Vieira. Crystal Palace at home, I think it was the only time I've ever seen the opposition manager getting more love than our current manager. When he came and everybody's singing Patrick Vieira. I remember Tony Adams, he criticized Arsene Wenger and he said Arsene Wenger is not a good coach. I didn't see a lot of people going for him back then. Admittedly, social media was not really big at the time. But he criticized that. Thierry Henry came out and he criticized, actually, no, I stand corrected. Patrice Evra, he said he went to Thierry Henry's house to watch an Arsenal game with him. And as soon as he saw Granit Xhaka wearing an armband coming out, he turned the TV off and said, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah.
Just because that was Granit Xhaka and he's very divisive, or not a lot of people are a fan of Granit Xhaka, I didn't see anybody going for him and saying, oh, quite the opposite. Oh, look, even an Arsenal legend doesn't want him to be a captain.
Yeah, I suppose
even an Arsenal legend doesn't want
him.
This guy's got a statue outside the club.
I would be critical of that, of Thierry Henry doing that about Granit Xhaka personally. Yeah,
you can.
But I wouldn't turn around and say you're a disgrace. It's your
Listen,
opinion, and I disagree
Thierry
with
Henry
it.
is not going to talk about Arsenal, and he's not going to get everything right. There will be comments that he's wrong, or maybe there's some, envious things behind the scenes, as you said, and that is okay. You can disagree with all of that. But to go and abuse a guy that has done so much for this club, listen, I don't think any Arsenal fan will remember when he came in as a substitute against Leeds on his return. I still watch this on YouTube and I have goosebumps.
Yeah, same. I have it saved in a folder, that video. It's
do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
So this is that guy. This is the same guy that we all love passionately. This is the same guy that we adore. We call him the king. If he's not a fan of Mikel Arteta, so he's an Arsenal fan. I'm not a greatest fan of Mikel Arteta, but I'm respectful about it. If he doesn't have positive views of Mikel Arteta, for whatever reason, he's entitled to his view. But to abuse him is a second thing. I will put him in the same category as the likes of Tony Adams, Patrick Vieira, David Rocastle, David O'Leary, right up there, Thierry Henry, up there.
Absolutely.
So, but that's my view. And in Europe, sorry, just to address your view on him, I can see where you're coming from, but I don't really feel. I just think that maybe there is something, but I think it came after this whole him and Dennis Bergkamp and the guy, the Daniel Ek guy, tried to buy the club. It didn't kind of work. I think maybe something came in after that where he feels distant from the club. Maybe it's not as good as before. Maybe it's just that.
Omri's comments on manager situations, to clarify that, he spoke in 2021 to 442 where he said, I'm an Arsenal fan, so if you're asking me if one day I'd like to coach Arsenal, then yes. If you ask me one day I'd like to be the Arsenal's kit man, then yes. If you ask me one day I'd like to cut the grass at the Emirates Stadium, then yes. But it's a utopia and I am far from that. If you ask me, I am dreaming. Yes, I'm dreaming. But when you're not dreaming, you're awake and there is a reality. Would I love to coach Arsenal? Yes. Would I love to go to Barcelona? Yes. I'm on a learning curve. I want to do well for the team I'm coaching, then time will tell. If you're not successful, you're not going to have those types of opportunities. I'm just concentrating on what I can control, and the rest is a massive utopia. So there you go. There's his thoughts on. I mean, I think it splits between the two of us. To be honest, I do think there is obviously a want from him in a fan sense of being the Arsenal manager, like all of us would. And I think there is maybe. I still stand by my comments. I think there is an element of possible envy that does run through some of the overcritical stuff that I see sometimes. But what I would say is that, it's a case of being critical and not being overzealous with your comments about it. Again, let's jump into the chat and see what some of you guys are saying. Ogle, who's one of our members, says, "Oh wow, someone must have copy and pasted my perspective into Shaheen's head. I love his nuanced take on the topic." Well, if you want to hear more of Shaheen's takes on topics, make sure you go and subscribe to the Arsenal Lounge. Wes says, "While I respect who said it, I have to react to what he said, and I don't think me not agreeing with Thierry Henry makes me I'm respecting him less." And this is, I think, is what it's about, Wes, is that you can disagree with Thierry Henry. It doesn't mean you're 100%. Disrespecting Thierry Henry by disagreeing with his take or what he thinks. Yeah. It's when that line is crossed and when people start, getting personal and start saying, he's got no right to have an opinion on something.
Exactly,
He's got a right to do that.
Things like Thierry Henry should keep his mouth shut. Thierry Henry should go away. Thierry Henry should shut up. Thierry Henry is, he's not half the manager that Mikel Arteta is, and so on. So let's not forget, there's a lot of people that 4 games, if you go back 4 games, they were saying he needs to go, Mikel Arteta. He's not good enough because he lost to Brighton, Southampton, Crystal Palace. So I don't want to mix things here, but the same people are now saying, "Oh, Mikel Arteta is great, and Thierry Henry can't have an opinion. He's this, he's that, or he's just jealous. He should keep his mouth shut." And I just think you can disagree with what Thierry is saying, and I think he'll probably appreciate it more if you disagree with what's saying and have a respectful debate with him, as I'm sure you would, Tom. If you come across Thierry Henry, you would point out your view and
I'm
say,
not going to turn around and say to him, "I think you should, I think you keep your mouth shut." That's not going to be the way you go about it.
The funny thing, Tom, is every single person anywhere in social media who's written those comments, if they come across Thierry Henry face to face, I don't think not a single one will say those things to him.
Oh, are you kidding? Absolutely not. They'd be like,
that's the sad thing about social media. I would tell him, listen, if I was to disagree with him on something, I would say, "Thierry, you said this, and this. I say the opposite because of so and so, so and so. I love you. Can we have a selfie together, man? You're the best." That's how it would go, and I think he would appreciate it more than you turn. "Oh yes, Thierry, you're right. Yeah, everything you say is perfect," and you walk away and say, "This guy's an idiot."
Yo-Yo says in the chat, "Many ex-players have criticised the club. Petit, Tony Adams, Paul Merson, Charlie Nicholas, Ian Wright. Why are Gooner so overprotective of Arteta's Arsenal?" It's an interesting point. I come from the perspective, obviously, doing this channel where, thankfully there's not a lot of abuse, in the chat box ever. Sometimes I think that people misconstrue my position on the manager quite easily. And we've talked a lot about that on the lounge as well. From my perspective, there's been 2 points during Arteta's tenure where I've wanted a change. And that has been after Villarreal and that was after the 5-0 Manchester City game. I think that everything that's happened subsequently from that has certainly, from my perspective, changed my mind on the manager and made me want to see where this can go. And I think that, plenty of good work has been done. I don't think there's necessarily an overprotection of Arteta from a broad perspective. I think there will be from a portion, of fans who are very, very protective of a Mikel Arteta. So that's why I think we need to be careful about, the way in which we categorise certain viewpoints, because to say that there is an overprotection of Arteta, I would say is wrong. But I would say that there is an overprotection of Arteta or a over-criticism, in some cases, of Arteta from certain sections of the fan base. Do you think that's fair?
That is 100% spot on. I know this show is called Agree to Disagree.
We're agreeing with each other, which is fine.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that front. What I don't understand is this Arteta loving or the overprotection from certain fans that as soon as
Could you give me an example of what you mean?
Like as soon as, it's happened on a Monday night show, right?
Sure.
In the comments I've seen this. I'm very unsure, let's say, about Mikel Arteta still. Okay? And people come at me and saying, "You don't know nothing about football. How can you be unsure of Mikel? Oh, this guy is, look what he trusts the process." And then when you go into it and you ask, what is the process? What is it that I'm meant to? Most of them struggle. They just come, "Oh, look, he's fixed the defense. Look, he's done this, he's done that." Yeah, okay, he has, but there's a lot of inconsistency. We go to Southampton, we lose at Brighton at home, we lose to Palace away, not expected. and then we go Chelsea away. We expected, a loss. We win. Man United at home, we win. West Ham away, we win. These are inconsistencies that makes me think, this will cause a problem. And as soon as you say this about Mikel Arteta, or you talk about this, it's as if you said something really bad, and it's outrageous, and it can't be said. It's not accepted socially. Why? I don't know. People are entitled not to like the manager, even not to want him there in the first place.
Sure.
I'm still unsure about him. It doesn't mean I want him gone, or I want him, I think he's an idiot or anything like that. I've given him, you've done show with me, Tom, and I've praised Mikel Arteta when he's done things right, and I've criticized him when he hasn't done things right. I praised him for the win at Chelsea, and I've criticized him for losing at home to Brighton. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand it. I can't have an answer with you because I don't understand why some people are extremely protected about this guy, and it doesn't matter what he does. He's the best thing that has happened to Arsenal ever.
I'm just Lynn in the chat box says, you see, Tom, from me as a fan, if I didn't know Shaheen better, when you pass your opinion, it's very balanced, but when Shaheen expresses opinion, it comes across as negative. And I've actually asked Lynn to respond in the chat box to kind of explain that reason.
Yeah,
because
do you think I came across negative?
No, I think that you come across as doubtful.
I am doubtful.
And I think there's a difference between the two. What I think is negative is, like you said there a second ago, we see comments on the Arsenal Lounge on a Monday night that are, overprotective of Arteta, will lose and be like, no, just trust the process. Don't doubt him. You can't criticise him, etc. But equally, I do think, like we saw on Monday night's show in the chat box, after 3 wins against Chelsea United and West Ham, people being still genuinely negative, about the manager, not taking the positives, not taking the wins.
Exactly.
So I think it goes both ways.
I've been very positive, and I've been very complimentary of Mikel Arteta when he's won. He's won games, Chelsea away being one of them. I was very impressed. But in the same time, I'm a fan. I'm entitled to criticize him when he doesn't get it right. And let's have it right. There's quite a lot of things that Mikel Arteta is, still there's a big question mark over. His man management, for example, the way he handled Aubameyang, the way he handled Ozil, the way he's dealing with Nicolas Pepe. It seems as if as soon as the players are a little bit experienced, they've got some games around them, and they've got a bit of ego with them. His way of dealing with this is, all right, you're going to be frozen out and you're going to be shipped away. And a lot of money will be written off in a process for Arsenal's business. But I don't want to go into that. For me to criticize that, it's okay. That doesn't mean I'm overly negative. It's just that I'm seeing something that I don't like, and it's not making sense to me, and I'd like to talk about it.
No, and I think that's where probably me and you divide, because I feel like it's it. Well, you said a second ago, like you feel like when you ask people about what the process is, they can't. I feel like I could sit and comfortably debate strongly, that Arsenal are on the right path under Mikel Arteta at this point in time. I wouldn't have been able to do that after Man City and the 5-0 game. I wouldn't have been able to do that after Villarreal. And some people want to say, you're a flip-flop for changing your opinion, but it's football. Opinions change constantly with the win, because there's a new game every few days, which changes
exactly.
things.
Look, a lot of people, I'll give you an example, right? When we lost against Southampton away, right? I did a show with Mo on our channel, right? And I said our season is over.
Oh yeah, Mo loved that.
He went in hard on me, right? But
yeah,
that was my opinion back then, based on what I was seeing. Do I have the same opinion today? No. Does it mean I'm a flip-flop? No. Because things change. When things change, you see it and it changes your mind,
Look, I think that from where we're at right now, if you'd have asked me after the Southampton game if I thought we'd have got top 4, I'd have been like, no, are you mad?
Exactly.
Like, we weren't going to get top 4 at that point.
And a lot of people would probably say the same thing as you, Tom.
At that point in time, because at that point we'd lost 3 games on the bounce. We had to go to Chelsea, play Man United at home, and then go away to West Ham, with Spurs playing against Brentford and Brighton, and Leicester, of course, as well. To say that, we were still, that we were favourites, or that the likelihood is that we would get top 4 it would be very optimistic, I would have thought at that time, to say that. Now, though, 3 games later, it's very different. And that is an example of how quickly the the landscape changes. It's not about being a flip-flop or whatever. It's football. You know, your opinion changes. The landscape changes.
And also,
sorry, I just want to give Lynn the chance to respond to you a second ago when I asked her. She says, I'm not prejudging Shaheen at all. I think it is just how he expresses himself. I find that when I watch the Arsenal Lounge, it takes a lot to please you. What do you think about that? Because I think that there's possibly a slight argument there when, you know, me and you go back and forth about Martin Odegaard all the time. And, you know, we've gone back and forth about Mikel Arteta. What for you... does it take for you to say that I think Arteta's the right man to lead us to where we need to go?
I've said this as well quite some often actually on Arsenal Lounge, and especially when it comes to Odegaard and our debate. I criticize Arteta or Odegaard because I want more. I want better. You know, I don't criticize Mikel Arteta because I don't like his face, or I don't like Martin Odegaard. I don't, you know, I think he's an idiot. No.
What is more?
I want consistency. I don't want us to go and lose to those, you know, to I don't know, Brighton, Southampton, you know, and then come and beat Chelsea away. Let's be consistent. I'm used to seeing my Arsenal, right, qualify for top 4 every season. I'm used to seeing my team lifting the Premier League title, play Champions League final. I've seen Arsenal go to Bernabeu and beat Real Madrid, a good Real Madrid. Go to San Siro and beat Inter Milan and AC Milan on their peak. I've seen these things, right? Yeah. So I've seen that, and I'm seeing what's happening now, and I don't like it. I want to see that again.
My issue with that, just sorry to jump in, but just I want to kind of angle the host interrupting host. But when you say, like, you know, I've seen Arsenal lifting trophies, I've seen Arsenal going to the Bernabeu, you know, that was 2006, mate. Like, that was 16 years ago, and a lot has happened between 2006 and say, you know, when Arteta took over. A lot happened in the 14 odd years between those two things, and they weren't good things. You know, there were sprinklings of positivity with the FA Cup wins, Mesut Ozil signing, Alexis Sanchez signing, but on the whole, I would describe that 14-year thing that happened as not a particularly successful or well-run 14 years. So that when Arteta takes over 14 years after we beat Real Madrid at the Bernabeu, you know, I don't think the expectation that we can compete for a title or to establish consistency within 1 and a bit years, I don't think that's realistic.
No, and I don't have that expectation of Mikel Arteta right now.
So what is your expectation? So on the 4th of April, 4th of May, sorry, what should we be doing?
Let me word this properly. I guess I haven't seen enough progress, right, for me to turn around and say, right, this guy is the guy that will get us challenging again.
What would have had to have happened?
Or get Champions League. I need to see more consistency. I need to see him make less.
I don't know what that means, though, Shaheen, because like Man City and Liverpool have dropped points to teams like, you know, further down the table this season.
Once a season, twice a season.
Chelsea, who signed 200 million plus worth of players in 2020 and then bought 100 million pounds worth of players again in Lukaku and Saul Niguez in the summer of 2021, are 3 points ahead of us, you know. And Spurs have got Antonio Conte in. 5 months after he took over, we're still 2 points ahead as we were, and they've strengthened in January. That's what I can't get my head around, is that, you know, we're going in this direction. This is the context of where we're at. They're the teams, Man City and Liverpool, where we want to be. But to get there, you know, it's not going to happen in 2 years. I feel like we are progressing towards that.
I 100% agree, and I know it's not going to happen in overnight or 1 year or 2 years. But what I'm seeing so far, I'll give you an example, right? Villarreal away, this whole false 9 rubbish.
Yeah, right? No, that's fair. Like, that's a fair criticism.
That's okay? And that was
Xhaka at left back against Brighton.
Exactly.
Awful decision.
I'd like to see these things. Okay, he's a novice. He's learning on a job. It's not. He didn't give himself a job. I understand that. So he's there now. You made the mistake once. Let it be once. Don't repeat it again. So that's one thing I'd like to see. Okay. 2, I'd like to see us. You see, when I'm talking about consistency, it means don't lose to a team that is on the bottom of the league and then go beat Chelsea away.
Do you not think that part of that is being a Premier League club, though? Like, you're not gonna beat all of the teams you're expecting. Even if you're City and Liverpool, you're going to drop points to those teams.
100%. I don't expect him to go beat every team. There will be times, right? Okay. But these times are repeating themselves a little bit. I'd like to see less of that, right?
Fair enough.
Next season is going to be Champions League football or Europa League football.
Fingers crossed.
Well, Europa League, let's say, for argument's
sake. A minimum, we've guaranteed that. Yeah.
So he's going to be playing Thursday, Sunday. That's a different kettle of fish, right? So you've got to manage your squad better. You've got to be able to rotate better. You know, you may come across good teams in Europa League. So that's a different challenge, right? And then I'd just like to see him manage these things more. Do I want him to succeed? I would love anybody who takes over to succeed. Have I criticized Unai Emery? Yes, when he was an Arsenal manager. You know, have I criticized Arsene Wenger towards the end? With the monsoon of love and respect that I have for Arsene, yes, towards the end, I was like, I don't know, I'm not sure anymore. So I have criticized. It's not just Mikel Arteta, it's anybody there. Do I want him to succeed? Yes, because if he succeeds, my club would succeed. And that's exactly what I want to see my club. I want us to challenge for honours. I want us to be how we were. I remember Arsenal qualifying from group stage of Champions League was almost given. It was the last 16 or 8 that we normally struggled.
Well, so we put in pot 1 most times. So that helps quite a bit.
Yeah, you said a long time ago.
I think that, and I want to address this because I don't think, and I want to address it because I think this is maybe the misinterpretation of your point, where Pundit Shaheen is blaming the failures of past managers and Arteta. I don't think you are. I think what you've highlighted is something I agree with, where Arteta is making mistakes that he has made himself already. Granit Xhaka being put at left back against Brighton was a mistake we made a year prior and should not have happened again, especially when it meant isolating Lokonga. It's these small things that I think give legitimate arguments against Arteta at times, quite rightly. For me, it's about the broader perspective. It's about the broader view of where Arsenal is a club compared to when Arteta took over and where it was going when Arteta took over. I thought Arsenal was on a downward slope before Arteta took the job. And so naturally, I expected it to get worse before it got better. It did get worse. It got more worse than I thought it was going to get, to be honest. I didn't think it was going to get as bad as 2 8th place finishes. I didn't think it was going to get that bad, and I'd completely misjudged that. But I think actually, I didn't expect us to be in a top 4 race this season, nor did I think we'd lead the top 4 race and get into it. So if that is achieved this season, what frustrates me from, say, a portion of the fan base is says, well, the standards of Arsenal Football Club dictate that we should be getting Champions League football every season. So getting it this year is not something that we should praise Arteta for. It's something that we go, it's Arsenal. It's what we should be doing. When I think that's wrong. I think that to say that it's not an achievement for Arsenal to finish in the top 4 or to even challenge for the top 4 this season isn't an achievement. Do you know what I mean?
No, 100% I agree, because at the beginning...
We're agreeing again.
I know, but because at the beginning of the season, we lost 3 games, right? And again, everybody was like, what's going on? Arsenal got to be this, Arsenal got to... But now we are where top 4 is on our hands. All we have to do is win our games, etc., and we can qualify. So it is an achievement. It's something that was nobody expected. And I'll tell you something, right? If we don't qualify for top 4, it's going to be a lot harder next season, because Man United will be better, possibly. Chelsea might be better.
We said that last season, though. And that's, I think, what frustrates me about the argument that they've been bad, and that's helped us. And you watched, obviously, the lounge on Monday night, and it was the clip that I got Mo to clip out and highlight on Twitter, was that we're on course for a points tally that falls in line with top 4 finishers of previous seasons. So, sure, Chelsea might be better next season. Man United might be better next season. But, so might we. I think we're going to spend more than we spent last summer, because I think that the players that we're targeting are going to cost a certain amount. If we don't get Champions League, I still think we're going to spend significantly, because I think that the club planned to spend significantly this summer on a team that we're going to qualify for the Europa League, not a team that we're going to qualify for the Champions League. So that plan should be good. You know, what we do this summer, if we qualify for the Europa or qualify for the Champions League regardless, it should be a solid investment this summer because the club, as we've heard, are supposedly ahead of schedule. You know, they didn't expect us to be in the Champions League next season. They thought we were going to be in the Europa League next season and yet still had this plan to push onwards. So even if we fail in the top four, which, to be honest, we shouldn't. You know, we should really, from this point, take the opportunity and finish in the top four. But if we don't, we still should be in a position where the plan that is in place puts us in a position where we aren't going to struggle with European football next year. I
agree, and we need to
stop agreeing with me, Shay.
I disagree, Tom. I disagree. You know, this is not right. I'm going to rant and rave. No, but we need a big summer, and qualifying for Champions League, it helps a lot, because when you go out there and you speak to these, you know, heavy duty players, if you like, right? Mm-hmm. You tell them, right, listen, we can offer you Champions League football. It makes a big difference. Then you say, oh, I'll come and play Europa League, because everybody wants to play Champions League. But
you agreed with me about, you know, this season being an overachievement if we get into the top four. You didn't expect us to be in the top four race.
Yeah.
But am I right in saying that on the lounge you said if we don't make top four, you'd sack him?
I said he's a failure.
Would you sack him?
Yes, I did say I'll sack him because.
Has your mind changed on that, or is it still that?
Well, look, when we discussed this, right?
It was a different time, hence why I'm asking you again.
When we discussed this, if I'm not mistaken, I think we were quite a few points ahead, and I think we had 3 games in hand. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah, sure.
So it was a position of self-destruction if you don't qualify for Champions League, because you're in such a good place. And imagine if we didn't lose those games, or at least if we lost 1 or 2 of them. If we beat, for example, Southampton away and we got a draw at home to Brighton, we would be in a far better place now. At the time, I said, yes, that's what I said. I said, I'll sack him, because that means you would have to mess this up so bad. So bad, right? And imagine if we went to Chelsea and West Ham and we lost, we carry out that form. Everybody would be asking, how can you, from the position of strength, from you were 4th, games in hand on everybody, and you know, you were point-wise, you were cleared of everyone, how you've managed to mess this up and finish, I don't know, 6th or 7th. And for me, that would be a sackable offence.
So you would still sack him if he finished 5th?
I don't know, man. I have to
get
off
the fence, man. This is the chance for you to disagree.
But I will be extremely disappointed if we don't finish.
No, so will I. I will be very disappointed if we don't finish.
Yeah, and another thing that I said it will be the manner of how we don't finish in top 4, if you like. If it will be something that Mikel Arteta has made mistakes along the way with his team selection, with his tactics, with his substitutions, and the result is that. That's one way. 2 is if, I don't know, you get 3 or 4 very bad injuries. That's not something you can blame on Mikel Arteta and say, oh, I'm going to, sack you because you haven't qualified.
Yeah.
So, it needs to be put in context a little bit.
Absolutely. Context is always key. I want to go for another. Have you got 10 more minutes, 10, 15 minutes? Still good?
I have more than 10, 15 minutes for you,
Brilliant.
Tom.
I don't, because I got to grab the missus from the station at just 7:05. But,
always have time for you.
Top man. It's because he agrees with me on the Agree to Disagree show. That's what he does.
But we disagree on Mondays.
Yeah, always, because you bring up Erdegaard every week. But when it comes... The issue for me with the whole, sackable disappointment, the reason why I'll be disappointed, if we don't get top 4, is because of Arteta, but in a good way, if that makes sense. Because Arteta's given me a reason to be disappointed, because he's put us in a position where we are, we can claim top 4 this season. And for that reason, I don't think the disappointment is worthy of a sacking, because it is because of what we have done, in my opinion, that has put us into this top 4 race when that wasn't the expectation of this season. Does that make sense?
Yes. Can I put something to you?
Always.
If we play Leeds and then Tottenham, right, and we lose both games
because
of poor team selection, poor substitution.
Because of Arteta. It's Arteta's
Because
fault we
of
lose those games.
Arteta's,
Yeah, okay, sure.
Lack of ability, if you like, as a manager.
Sure.
Right? Then you've got to look at it and say, well, hold on. You could be put in the exact same situation next season and it will be the same outcome. So then you've got to look at it. Are you actually the guy who's going to take us to that next level that we need to be? Because you've now been presented with the opportunity at the point where you're clear on the fourth place. You've got advantage of point. You've got very good goal difference, right? And you've got 3 or 4 games in hand. And then it all kind of, unravels in front of all of us. So that's when I would look at him and I'll be like, maybe it's not for him. Maybe that's his limit.
So that's what it would take.
That is the only time that I've said this before. I would look at him. And I'll put that to you. If that was to happen, would you still be like, oh, I'm disappointed, but, we'll go again next season?
Yeah, I would still be like, I'm disappointed, but go again, because I think that the evidence across, to the point to where we're at so far indicates to me that we're on the right pathway. Mistakes have happened. Yeah, I'm not going to sit here and say that, it's been perfect. It's been, if it was perfect, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about the possibility of top 4. We'd be there. And, if we'd have won those games against at least Brighton and Southampton, we win against Leeds and we'd have top 4. That's the situation. If we'd have beaten Brighton and Southampton, and win against Leeds next weekend, we would have top 4. But we didn't, and you have to put the mistake down in the Brighton game in particular to Arteta. The Southampton game, I don't. I think we've played that game a million times and won it most of them.
Going back on it, Tom, I would say, why not bring Elneny back then? Why bring
but then you have to credit him for them bringing him back.
And then you've got the question. But you'll be pleased to hear we disagree on that point. That I think he should be gone if it's down to him making mistakes, because this is the business end of season. This is where you need to pull through now. This is where you need to show that I'm a top manager or I'm a very good up and coming manager and I can manage this situation. I can manage my team and I can make the most out of an opportunity that was presented. And if you don't, because of the mistakes you make, you there will be consequences, and in the footballing world, it will be your job.
I think that what Arsenal will do, and my prediction kind of what will be, is that I think Liverpool will get points off Spurs, and I think we will beat Leeds, and I think, in that North London derby, I think we might draw it, which will take it, until the last couple of games of the season. If we can win it in the North London derby, it would be incredible. What that would bring to the team, what that would do to Tottenham. That's
what that would do to the fan base.
Yeah, absolutely. Would be absolutely massive. And I think
it would deserve some celebratory.
I think people would be calling for you to apologise at times, wrongly. That said, but
I have no problem, putting a pie in the oven, because at the end of the day, it's not about Arteta or anybody. It's about Arsenal, and I want my club to do well.
That's the main thing for me, is that I feel for some it's got personal with Arteta. It's got to a level where, they'd rather see Arsenal lose to get rid of him. But if Arteta succeeds, Arsenal succeeds. And that's the most important thing, as you just said. It's the most important thing for us to progress. And for Arteta, if it is Arteta, great. If it's not and it's someone else that progresses, great. I don't care. I just want Arsenal to go where they need to go, which is back to where we've known them to be able to achieve things in title races and in the Champions League one day, maybe.
Tom, were you having the same view after the first half of last night Liverpool game?
About what? Sorry.
That Tottenham, Liverpool will take points off Tottenham.
Oh, at half-time in the Villarreal game, I was bricking it, mate. I was like, oh, they've gone. They've screwed it.
Really bad.
Yeah. I don't want Liverpool to win the Champions League.
No, I don't want as well.
I felt like if Villarreal had won and knocked them out, that would have set them up so badly for the Spurs game. It would have really, like when we got knocked out of the Champions League and the FA Cup and the Invincible season, and we had to come back against Liverpool.
We got done by Chelsea, didn't we?
Yeah, of course, Wayne Bridge.
Wayne Bridge,
unbelievable. I think that with that, I am quite pleased that Liverpool won in the end comfortably with a very strong finish, because that should, and I wrote about it today actually, that it should give Liverpool the kick up the arse to really go for Spurs and not let them and not drop their level. So that's what I'm hoping is going to happen. Whether or not that does, is
they can't afford. Liverpool can't afford to lose.
No, they can't. But I think that brings with it its own pressures and its own nerves.
And
but with Spurs also have to. I don't think Spurs will be going into that game thinking we got to try and take something. I think Spurs go into that game thinking we have to win this game. We've got to beat Liverpool to stay in the North.
Which is good because they will come out.
Exactly.
If Tottenham come out and play, they will lose.
I don't think they will, though. I think Conte will see what happened against City, and they'll play the same way
that would worry me a little bit if they go with that.
And I think they
will. Especially if they get a goal early or if they score the first goal. They're going to sit back even more, and it's going to be very hard for Liverpool to break them down. But anyway, nevertheless, they can go to Liverpool and win, and all we have to do is turn up at North London Derby.
It being at Anfield, I think, is a big thing. I think we saw Spurs get a result against Liverpool at their stadium earlier this season. I think
Man City, prefer if he was at Tottenham, Tom.
What the Liverpool game?
Yeah, because at home they would come out to play a bit more.
I don't know, because I watched them not come out to play against City still, and they still got a result. And I think, and the Liverpool game at home, Robertson was sent off, and that opened Liverpool up more in that game. I think Liverpool will get a result. I think if Liverpool score first, I think it could be uncomfortable for Spurs.
If Liverpool score first, they will have to come out and play.
Absolutely, when they need to get an early goal. If Liverpool it goes in at 0-0 at half time, I'll be very nervous, about Spurs getting something from that game. Even if they get a draw there, it's fine. I'll take if you said to me they draw that game, I'm buzzing. I'm taking.
You take a draw now.
I'd take a draw in the Liverpool Spurs game, because it means that if we beat Leeds, all we need to do is win the derby. I say all that we need to do, is win the derby, and we know we Champions League are. So if you said that you can have a Liverpool Spurs draw all day long, because it positions, and obviously we then have to beat Leeds. And we're kind of all looking at Leeds as a bit of a formality right now, and it's not. They're a team that can cause problems. They're a team that are very vulnerable and leaky in terms of goals, but we're not exactly a side that are, banging them in regularly every game. I know that we've got, 7 goals against Chelsea and Man United, and then 2 more against West Ham, but the goals that we've scored, they've not been from dominant performances. They've been from fortuitous moments at times.
What's interesting is not once we've talked about Arsenal Leeds game as if it's expected for us to win.
I know,
I am expecting us to win.
Yeah, same. But it's people. I think that we talk about it so easily as a formality because we look at that game as you put it on paper and you're like, win, like not a problem. But we had that for Brighton, we had that for Southampton, we had that for Burnley at home, and it didn't happen. So we can't look at it that way. And I just hope that Tomiyasu, of course, being back is going to be a big plus. And I think that hopefully will balance Tavares as well on the left-hand side. He's the big worry for me because he's going to be up against Kulusevski against Spurs. I'm not sure who plays on the right-hand side. Is it Rafinha? It will be for Leeds on the right. So that's no easy feat, play against Rafinha. Gabriel's going to have to be on it in terms of backing him up and defending him. In fact, the Man City game's having a look at their lineup for that game. Yeah, Rafinha and Dallas. But Dallas is injured. I think Cooper's not fit either. So it'll be Ayling and Rafinha on that right-hand side. We'll have to wait and see. Akbar, if you want to know our lineup for the Leeds game, you're going to have to tune in for our preview show a little bit later on this week on Friday. We'll be doing a preview for that. Speaking of Tavares as well, if you want to hear some interesting thoughts from his former coach at Benfica, go and give my piece of reads over on football.london that came out today. Link in the description to my profile is always there. It was a really good chat. We talked about the video actually of that comes out tomorrow. So if you want to watch it instead of reading it because you're lazy, you're like watching things instead, you'll be able to do that on the Arsenal Way tomorrow as well. But Shaheen, we're going to wrap things up there. Before I go, to be fair, I should read out the poll results. Over 240 of you have voted. 40% of you say that Thierry Omri was right. 60% though disagreed with Thierry Omri's comments regarding Saliba. So quite split, to be fair. A lot of these polls often you see 80% pluses. So the fact that it's 40-60 is still pretty split for a chat box as well. But thank you, Shaheen, for your time.
My pleasure.
And
it's always nice.
Plug your show, mate. Go mad.
No, it's just Arsenal Lounge. come over. Lev is planning quite a few things for summer and next season. And obviously on Monday nights, we do a fantastic podcast with me, Tom, Mo, and Lev. And it's very opinionated. We disagree, especially me and Tom when it comes to Odegaard. But it's a very nice show. Come and subscribe or come and watch us sometime. And thank you for having me on, Tom. It's a pleasure coming
Always
on.
a pleasure.
It's always nice speaking to you.
Always a pleasure. Absolutely. Likewise. Link to the Arsenal Lounge is in the description. So make sure you go and check them out and give them a subscribe. They're on their way to 20k subs. Let's help them get there. And make sure you tune in on Monday nights at 8 p.m. Of course, match dependent, but usually 8 p.m. on a Monday. You can find us there. And of course, plenty more content coming from Shaheen and Lev throughout the weeks as well, from the sounds of things too. And I'm sure through the transfer window, you might see a familiar face or two on there as well. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Do drop a like on the video. I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for the daily update show. And go check out our chats with other people on the channel that's already up there as well. Lots of good stuff to get your teeth sunk into. We'll see you soon. And as always, up the Arsenal.